What is going on, miners, and welcome back to the Hobbyist Miner channel. Well, today we're going to talk about purchasing second-hand cards. Today I went ahead and bought this one. This is an XFX RX580 8GB card. We currently have 3 of these, as well as a 590 in one of our rigs over here. Show that to you real quick. So here we go. We have the Sapphire Pulse RX580, 580, 580, and then this is actually a 590 over here. So we're going to be adding this card to this rig. We currently have 4 available spots on our RevTech board here, but let's go ahead out here and talk about this guy. So I bought this off of Facebook Marketplace locally. This was not purchased online, and the seller had it listed for $450 and local pickup only. So definitely too high. $450 for a 580, just too high, definitely too high. And I think the seller was smart. You know, they put it high, hoping to have some counter offers and come down. So I went ahead and reached out to them. I live about an hour from them in Pennsylvania, and said, hey, I can offer you $350 and I'll meet you halfway. So we agreed, and I went and picked it up today. Met at a Wendy's parking lot, and it was actually a mother and son. The son was selling the card in order to take the cash and put it towards a newer card. So good for him, definitely. So far so good. I actually just went ahead and peeled the plastic off of the center here. It was still on there for these, which was pretty cool to see that, you know, people still leave those on, a little plastic circle in the middle. But anyways, guys, so got this for $350 US today. This is Saturday, actually, that I'm recording this. And I wanted to go through with you guys just kind of my experience of buying secondhand cards, and then what I do after I get them, test them, clean them, new thermal paste, all that types of stuff. So first step we're going to do is we're going to take our card and bring it into my test rig. Of course, you come up short, no clue what it got stuck on. So this is just a little mini test rig that we have in here. Just hooked up to a power supply, solid state drive. It's an HP motherboard. And we're going to take this, plug it in. It takes an 8-pin. Man, trying to do anything today with one-handed is not working out for me, I swear. There we go. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that's all plugged in, good to go. Let's go ahead and power this on. And there we go. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to HIVEOS. I want to make sure that it just boots. It shows up in HIVEOS. This is my first test. Look at, we'll get a flight sheet set up on it. Look at what it does stock, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we are in HIVEOS. Banshee is the name of our test rig here, and as you guys can see, it did come up. Awesome. It's a good first victory. Right here it says Radeon RX 580. It's an XFX card. Now it's using Samsung memory, so these are all things that we need to take note of. So my first step is to go in and assign a flight sheet to it. So I already have a pre-built flight sheet. I always like to name them the name of the rig, what it's mining, and then just like some notes. So here, Banshee, ETH, and Test Bench. So we're going to go ahead and apply this to our rig. We have no overclock settings currently applied to this, so our goal is to see what we're getting stock. Okay, so we've had this running for a few minutes now. We're right around that mid 24 mark for our stock settings for this card, but we all know we can definitely get better out of our 580s. So if I come over here into HIVEOS and go to my farm, let's take a look at my other 580s that I'm currently running, especially ones that are XFX. So if I come in here, go to my Gambit rig here, we can see that I have a number of 580s in here, and they're 32-ish, 33 on a good day. And I definitely want to take note of some of these overclock settings here. So right away, we know 24 is kind of our baseline, is what we can get stock with this setup. So my next step is to go back over to my rig, to my test rig here, and I'm going to start to look at overclocking. Now, some things to take note of. We're at 140 watts right now. That is an absurd amount of wattage for only 24 mega hash. So when we come in here to overclock this, some things that we're going to do, we're going to take some notes from the other 580s that we've done. We know a kind of an idea as to what they should do, but every card is different. Silicon Lottery definitely determines, hey, this card is going to run completely different than this card. And so what memory clock settings worked on this 580 might not work to a T on another 580, even the same memory. So give me a few minutes. I'm going to try to really dial this in, and then we'll come back and see where we're at. Okay, so we're back. I'm not going to lie, it probably took me about an hour to really nail this down and get this exactly where we wanted to be. So if you guys remember, we were at 140 watts stock at 24 mega hash for Ethereum. So now we're at 93 watts. So we've cut out 47 watts and we've increased our hash rate by 6.5, give or take. Now we're at 30, but I'm not satisfied. And what I mean by that is I've really tweaked this. Like, as you guys can see, and if you guys aren't familiar, let's talk about it a little bit. So when you're getting into overclocking, especially AMD cards, there's a lot of different variables to keep in mind. So this is an RX card. So in HIVEOS, you can actually come in here and read these informational bubbles. It recommends for your RX card for your core state to be 1 and your memory state to be 1. When you're using those fields, you actually enable the aggressive undervolting at the bottom. In addition to that, we talked about how we used some of our other 580s to give us a baseline to get started. So 1250 I started here, and then 2315. I couldn't believe that this card went up to like 2315. But I was able to go ahead and tweak this. And what I did was, between core clock 1250, core voltage 88.5, and memory clock, I just played with it like a little bit, like 5 here, 5 there, 5 here, 5 there. And then I even would try to drop my voltage, because at the end of the day, your goal is to get the most amount of hash rate with the least amount of watts. So I just play with it a little bit here and there until it crashed, or until my hash rate went down. Those are always two great identifiers. And this takes time. I mean, it honestly took me about an hour of just making a tweak, checking, making a tweak, checking. So now we're at about 30.26. If we jump into Hive Shell here, and then you can type MOTD watch, and you can see about 30.26 is kind of where we're hovering at right now for the card, which is actually pretty dang good at the end of the day. I mean, we're at 30. If we go over to what to mine and you check out on what to mine a 580, it says 30.5 at 130 watts. It's where it wants us to start out at right now. So if we went off of that, this is just a cookie cutter, plain Jane, and you can even see here 1150 by 2150 is what it recommended there. So 30.5 by 130 watts, which we're down to, you know, I have to get a watt meter on the wall in order to give us exact estimates. But down here in Ethereum, you can come down and see it's, you know, $2.30, and it makes about $1.96 a day right now in the current market. So all that being said, as I mentioned to you guys, I'm not completely satisfied with 30.26. I think we can do better. So on my secondhand cards, after I've gone ahead and here's what we've done so far, guys. We have installed the card in a test rig. We have checked what it does stock. We have overclocked the card, and we've kind of found its peak at this point, at least on the current BIOS. My next step is to take the card, and I'm going to put on a quick time lapse for you guys, and I'm going to strip down the card. I'm going to replace the thermal paste in the card, replace any thermal pads that are in the card. I'm going to blow out the card entirely, clean it up, put it all back together. And then my next step from there is we're going to BIOS mod this using the Polaris one-click BIOS mod tool. Very simple, very easy, especially for these RX cards. And then we're going to circle back around. Our goal is 32. So let's see how we do. So enjoy this time-lapse upcoming video of me stripping down the RX580. Okay, so we have the card in our test bench right now. Everything is booted. We're at 30.28 for our hash rate, and we're looking good, 49 degrees, which is fantastic for our temps. So our next step is we need to make a backup of our current BIOS. So let's go ahead in here under overclocking, and we're going to go ahead and download VBIOS. So once you click that, and I always recommend, guys, always recommend that you do this stuff on a test bench so that you're not interfering with any of your other rigs and that you don't make any mistakes. You don't download the wrong BIOS, you don't flash the wrong BIOS. Just do it on a test bench if you can. My test bench is an old HP, you know, nothing crazy. So we're going to go ahead and make a backup of this. So I'm going to hit download. And that's going to go ahead and after you hit download, it's going to go ahead and compile this. And then as you can see at the top, it actually says AMD download. It's going to go through this process to try to download it. And then once it's finished, you actually have to click here and you'll download the exact file. Okay, so that file is ready to be downloaded. And look at it. You can see it actually puts a ton of information into that file name. The name of the rig, Radeon RX580, 8 gig Samsung, all that information is there. So if you click on that, it's going to go ahead and kick off the download. So you can see it's downloading that ROM. And if I do show in folder, it is in my downloads folder here. So my next step is I'm going to drag it into this RX580 folder. And in that folder, I have two subfolders, original and BIOS modded. So I'm going to go and put the original into the original location folder that I made. And then I'm going to make a copy of it just to be safe. And I'm going to put it into BIOS modded. So now I have the original safe and sound, and then I have a separate copy in BIOS modded. So my next step is to go ahead and download Polaris BIOS editor. I have an entire video on this, guys. So if you guys are interested, I'll put a link in the upper right-hand corner or a link directly down below. Once you go ahead and download it, which I have it readily available here, we're going to click Open BIOS. And we're going to go into our downloads folder, RX580. We're not going to touch our original. We're going to go into BIOS modded just to make sure we're touching a whole separate file. Now it's going to go ahead and bring up everything in that BIOS. You can see in the upper left-hand corner, max GPU frequency, 2000, max memory frequency, 2250, power controller, 50. And then you can actually see all the details in this, especially down to the timings here. This is huge, guides, on all of your megahertz timings. So what we're going to go ahead and do, just in this case, we're not going to fine tune at an exact variable level. Instead, what I love to do, and which is great for beginners, is over here, we're going to hit one-click timing patch. And you can see load a BIOS first and then click here to start tweaking the BIOS. Oh, it disappeared on me. It will ask if you want to. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and adjust some of these timings for us automatically. So you can see the timings here. So let me go ahead and make a screenshot of this timings so we can show this exact screen. Okay, we'll minimize that. And now we're going to do one-click timing patch. Okay, so now if I go ahead and bring this up, it looks like, yep, it made an adjustment. So I'm going to try to put this side by side. I want to show it to you guys. So take a look over here. So the changes that it made right here, max memory frequency, it took it from 2250 over to 2300 is one of the changes that it made through there. So now what our next step is to do is we're going to go ahead and save this. So up top, you're going to do save as, and we're not, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this one, but I'm actually going to name it. At the very end of this, I'm just going to do underscore modded. Okay. And I'm done. So I can close this out. And now we're going to go ahead and apply this. So I'm going to go ahead and do flash VBIOS. And before I do that, actually, I want to go ahead and stop the miner. You don't want to flash a BIOS when it's mining. So we're going to let the miner go ahead and finish stopping the miner. And then we're going to go ahead and apply the VBIOS here. You never want to run it when it's doing it. So, okay, flash VBIOS, select the file. So we're going to come in here, RX580. We're not touching the original. We're going into BIOS modded. We're not even touching the one that we imported into Polaris BIOS editor. We're selecting our modded one. We're going to hit open. Now it says, what card do you want to put it on? Well, guess what? We only have one card in this test rig. And just as I said, if you do it in a test rig, there's less of a chance for you to screw something up. We selected that there. Let's hit upload. And now we are uploading our modded BIOS directly to the card. So as you can see up top, AMD uploaded. And we're going to give it a second here to let this finish. Once it's done, we're going to do a reboot. And we're going to check right back in to HIVEOS. Alrighty guys, so it's been a few minutes. I want to share my experience. So after I went ahead and applied the BIOS, the new BIOS to the card and rebooted, my overclock settings were still in there, and it was causing the miner it was actually causing the miner to crash instantly, never started mining at all. So I went ahead and cleared the overclock settings. So as you guys can see, there's no overclock settings. Take note, we are now, with the BIOS changes that we made, we are at 29.62 at 110 watts with 0 overclock settings. So if you guys remember, when we first got this card and we popped it in, we were doing 24 mega hash at 140 watts. So just going ahead and doing the Polaris one-click BIOS editor took us down 30 watts. And then on top of that, we gained about 5 mega hash already. So we're at 29.62 stock. So now let's go ahead and let me re-overclock this, because we need to go ahead and this is a totally different card now. So now I need to go ahead and overclock this the best that I can, and I'll check back in a few minutes and we'll see what we get this card to. So I'm in the process of overclocking, but I wanted to show you guys, I was really pushing how far I could take this card. And as you can see, Team Red Miner didn't like it. So now I know the ceiling for this card, and I can start to now tweak it back a little bit. Okay guys, so I think I found our kind of sweet spot right now, and we can definitely do some more fine tuning as time goes on. But we found our mark. So we're at 33.32 mega hash. We are currently at 97 watts. So let's recap. We got this card. We went ahead and threw it in our test rig. We were doing 24 mega hash at 140 watts stock. We overclocked it. We were at 30.62 at 90 some watts. We went ahead and used the Polaris one-click BIOS editor. We got this card now with the BIOS editor adjustments and with new overclock settings. We're now at 33.32. So our goal was 32. Congratulations, we did it. We beat our goal, which is awesome. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to swap over to the camera and let's put this in its final resting place, which is in our Gambit rig, which is on our 580 rig. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and take a look here. So our card, we just took it off of our test rig. I went ahead and got it prepped. It's right here and ready to go. So we have the GPU risers. These are the new ones that have the 8 capacitors on it with the butterfly clip. So I have GPU riser in here all set. We then have our Y splitter, 8 pin over here, 8 pin right here. And then we have a 6+2 over here. We're only using the 6 for our riser. And then we do have it into a PCI cable here. And we do have our USB cable. So my plan is to go ahead and get this installed right between these two, kind of separating, you know, my goal is to put 8 cards here total, put our other cards right in between. So you guys are gonna see this installed in 3, 2, and 1. And there she is, number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's our 5th card there. I love this RevTech board. I mean, if you guys haven't seen this rig before, I'll put a link in the upper right hand corner. This is my rig. Memory, CPU, and hard drive, all in that little board there. And then look at that, all the USB cables just go ahead and go right there into the board. It's phenomenal. Look at this. This is it. This is the mining rig. Anyways, guys, we are set and good to go. Let's go ahead and get this powered on. So we're gonna go ahead and press our power button back in here. There we go, and our rig is powering up. We got 1 GPU, 2, 3, 4. Our new one in the back, where are you at? There we go, there's 5. And our RevTech board is powering up. Dude, look at these GPU risers back in here. They look awesome. They look good, great indicator lights. If you guys are interested, by the way, I do have a discount code for these, a 10% off discount code. I'll put a link down in the description. At checkout, just use the code Hobbyist Miner, and that'll give you 10% off at checkout. Okay, let's jump over to the computer. There she is. We'll jump over to the computer and we'll go ahead and get the overclock settings put in here. Okay, so we have our card in its final place, GPU number 4. It is I had to adjust some of the overclock settings after I got this thing in here, into this rig versus my other rig, my test bench. The Team Red Miner actually was crashing. So it's so interesting. Like, keep in mind, when you have one GPU is one thing, but when you add multiple GPUs to the same miner, man, there definitely is some change. So in this case here, we're no longer at mid 33s. We're at 32.95 right now. I do need to spend some time tweaking this a little bit more, but other than that, we are set. We're good to go. We're now running 5 total cards in this rig. We're upwards of 165.8 mega hash, which is awesome, like on Ethereum. Let's keep this sucker going. This will be great once we go ahead and get this thing all the way up to 8 total GPUs. Last thing I want to leave you guys with that I spoke about was maintaining my GPUs, especially like these secondhand cards that are coming in. So I created myself this Excel spreadsheet. I love Excel spreadsheets, so bear with me. So this is every rig that I have and the cards and the status of the cards. Green is they've been cleaned and new thermal paste. Red is it needs to be done. So as you can see up top here, my 470s, they were all new thermal paste. The cards were cleaned out back in March. Coming down here, let's look at our Gambit rig. So I have 2 green and 2 red. So 2 of those cards I've been done and good to go. The pink is what I just worked on. And I wanted to show you guys, it says AMD XFX RX580 Radeon 8 gig. It's my Gambit rig. I even have the serial number in here so I can identify the exact card when I go to review it. I made a note, had good stock thermal pads. I made the note of the thermal paste was replaced on today, the 13th, which is actually the 14th now. So let me update that. And then I also put in here when I blew out and cleaned out the card, which was on the 13th or 14th there. So now I'm going to go ahead and change my coloring over, and now it's green. As you guys can see down below, my Pixie rig, I did all my 380s. Those are all done and good to go. And now I got a lot of work to do on my NVIDIA rig down below. 2 of the cards are done currently, but this allows me to keep track. So when I have an extra spare night with some extra time, I'm not creating any content, I have nothing going on, I can crack a few beers and come in here and say, okay, what is the oldest card that I worked on? Oh, it's one of my 470s back in March. Let's just start from the top and work my way forward. And I like to stick to the rule of thumb of replacing thermal paste once a year, and the rule of thumb of blowing out the card once a quarter. So 4 times a year. I think that makes sense. I think it works, and I think it's a good avenue to go. Other than that, guys, that's it for today. So, secondhand cards. This is my normal practice and experience running through purchasing a secondhand card locally and all the steps I go through in order to get to where we are now. This video, by the way, went significantly longer, but I'm really glad I got to be extremely transparent and show you guys everything, including the struggles and challenges that we ran into along the way. Anyways, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys are looking for a video on how to replace the thermal paste, that's a big request from you guys. I will go ahead and put a link in the upper right hand corner, a link down below, and at the very end of this video, in the very ending, I will go ahead and put that video up there available for you guys to click. It is a step-by-step guide. There's no editing. It's literally shows you guys every step of the way. Well, if you guys enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Take care.